We have a new amp on the bench now. Actually, not new to me. I've had this amp since I was a kid, probably since about 1985 or so. And I foolishly sold it to my brother, my younger brother, sometime in the mid 1990s. And then a couple of years ago, he came to visit on my birthday and he brought it back. Very generous soul, my younger brother. So I definitely have appreciated having it back in my life. Love this amp, always have. It is a 1980 Deluxe reverb, and it's the type with this useless push-pull volume boost. I never use the boost. The way the boost gets its boost is by routing part of the signal back through the reverb tube. It's kind of a trashy, crackly. It makes it louder, but it doesn't sound any better. So I don't know. In my opinion, if you want volume boost, you just turn up the volume. Anyway, I've had this for a long time, and until a year or two ago, I had never had it out of the cabinet. I'd never done any work on it. I'd never done any work on any amplifier, frankly. And I was having some issues with this and took it apart a couple of years ago and at least cleaned up some of the major problems I was having. But I didn't really know what I was doing. I've studied a lot since then. I refurbished the Fender Twin Reverb. Learned a lot by doing that, and this is basically a miniature version of the Twin Reverb. And now that I have it apart again, and after having been through the Twin Reverb rebuild or refurbish, what I'm noticing is what I thought this amp was really stock and that it hadn't been messed with too much, but actually I'm finding some things in here that do not belong. For instance, this blue capacitor right here that's on this terminal board that has this is a 1 ohm resistor that's going to pin 8 of the second output tube. The output tubes on this amp are 6V6. They're a little smaller than the tubes on the Fender Twin, which are 6L6. Anyway, it's got 2 output tubes where the Fender Twin has 4. Anyhow, there's something weird here because this 1 ohm, this pin 8 on this tube should just be going to ground like this one here. You can see this little, here I'm going to get a stick so I can point. Where's my point and stick? Gotta find my point and stick. Well, we'll just use this pen for now. I like to, even though the capacitors are discharged, I know there's no voltage in here. I still don't like to poke my finger in if I don't have to. So this wire right here that's soldered to the chassis goes to pin 8 of the first output tube. So pin 8 goes to ground. Over here we got pin 8 going to this 1 ohm resistor, going to this terminal board with this 0.047 capacitor, and then this other wire going to the bottom lug of this ground switch. And these ground switches, they're useless anymore. They used to, when we had more houses, had just 2-wire current. These amps, well, this amp probably came originally with a 3-prong plug, but they still put this ground switch on here. It was designed to, if you were getting some hum, you could switch it. It would direct the power to one side or the other. It's switching between common and hot. Anyway, I'm not real good at explaining that part of it, but in any event, this is useless. So this whole terminal board with this capacitor, with this resistor going to pin 8, with this wire going to this ground switch. I don't know what the hell is up with that, and I'm going to have to find out. At some point it looks like somebody had definitely changed the plug, the cord, and this is the old grounding lug, which is just an ugly pile of solder. And then they put a new grounding lug, and they used one of the bolts for the power transformer, which I'm not sure I like. I think I'm going to take this grounding lug and just drill it into the chassis here. Yes, it makes another hole in the chassis, but frankly, so what? Anyway, so that's a newer power cord. That's okay. And then we've got some issues. Well, actually, I don't really think we have issues with the tremolo. There's a light-dependent resistor in here that when you turn the tremolo on, there's an LED that's strapped to a light-dependent resistor, which is what makes the watt of the tremolo. And that's my best impression of it. And it goes to these two resistors, and then it goes to the tremolo tube. But I've got some problems here with the output jack for the tremolo. Normally the tremolo and the reverb would be on a foot switch. I don't have the foot switch. I don't really want to buy a foot switch. I kind of always have the reverb on, so I'm not worried about that. So you make yourself one of these here. This is just an RCA plug where I have clipped the end and tied the two wires together, and when you plug it into the vibrato pedal jack, it acts as if the vibrato or the tremolo is on. But there's this thing is loose in here, and something going on with this jack. So I'm going to see if I can fix it, and if not, I'm going to have to order a new one or find a replacement, which won't be hard to do, but I want to try and keep all the parts as original as possible. These tone capacitors are the same as the ones in the Fender Twin. You've got your tone capacitors for the normal channel, and then you've got the vibrato channel and the tone capacitors for that one. And then you've got coupling capacitors in here. I'm not sure. On the Twin, I changed all of these blue ones, and frankly, I don't know that it made any difference. The two blue ones I'm definitely going to change are these two. These are the coupling capacitors. They couple the phase inverter tube to the grids of the 6v6 output tubes. And there is a little bit of voltage on this side of these two capacitors when the amp is off, and there shouldn't be. Anyway, I'm gonna change these 0.1 600 volt capacitors that couple the phase inverter to the grids of these output tubes. And the output tube grids are what deliver, or what the grid is negative DC voltage, and that prevents, when you flip the amplifier on, the cathode of the tube starts electrons shooting across to the plate or anode of the tube. And if you didn't have the negative voltage grid in between the anode and the cathode, the tube would just run away. It would do what they call red plating and get super hot and explode. So anyway, these two caps are important to the negative bias of the amplifier, and they're old, and I will change those. However, these blue ones here, not so important in terms of anything that's going to cause an issue. And unless I'm finding a significant issue with them, I'm going to leave them alone. These silver guys right here are old Mallory electrolytic capacitors. They have electrolytic stuff inside of them, and these do wear out And so whether they're failing or not, I'm going to change these, because that'll just ensure that the amp has a longer life. And then there's something going on right here. I'm going to put some light on this situation right here, see if we can, I don't know. You can see that somebody has done some really shitty soldering right here. I don't know. First, I got to check the schematic and make sure all three of those wires are supposed to be in that spot. I'm pretty sure they are. And then there's a very thin little jumper wire here that is, it's not stock, because the jumper wire that Fender was using, like this one over here, they're thicker, whereas this one is very thin. Maybe it is original, I don't know, but somebody has messed with that eyelet hole right there, and it just is not a clean solder. So I'm gonna melt the solder out of there, suck the solder out of there with my desoldering pump, and or some solder wicking stuff, and just clean that out, reclip the ends of those wires so I got clean leads coming out, and then resolder that, and then resolder this one just to make that clean. And then these are the screen resistors here, and they're supposed to be 470 ohms. Both of them are testing well over 520, so they're cooked. That's what happens to these old carbon comp resistors when they go bad, as the resistance just goes up and up. So those are going to get changed. Yeah, it's a 470 ohm resistor, and that's about what's happening here in the Fender Deluxe Reverb. It already sounds good, but after refurbishing the Fender Twin and hearing how it sounds, just how crystal clear and glassy it is, I want to get this amplifier back to its original glory. And the Fender Twin is a 1978, this one is a 1980, so this is all the CBS era Fender stuff. These were made in Fullerton, California, hand wired, and I love these amps. I mean, I just love the clean, glassy sounds you can get out of them, even with no pedals. And then once I hook up my pedals, oh God, they sound so good to me. A lot of people don't like them because they don't overdrive by themselves. You can't really overdrive this thing. I mean, maybe if you turn it way up, you're going to get some overdrive, but I don't care. I got a distortion pedal for that. So anyhow, that's what's happening, and I'll check back in with you later.